Hey everyone, I am here today to go ahead and share the books, the biblical fiction books that I read in May of 2020. I believe that I read 5, so I wanted to go ahead and share with you guys the ones that I read this month. The first one is Harvest of Rubies by Tessa Ashfar. This one is actually interesting because it takes place in the time of Nehemiah, but the main character is actually not a biblical character. She's just supposed to be a relative of Nehemiah. So she's actually not in the Bible. So this one it's biblical fiction. It's based in the time of Nehemiah, but none of the characters except Nehemiah is actually in the Bible. So it tells about her life and how she ends up marrying a man. And it's actually a really good story about how she was able to find her purpose in life. So I really like this one, but of course I love everything by Tessa Ashfar. Okay, the next one that I read was Counted with the Stars by Connelly Cassette. This is the first one that I have read from Out of Egypt, the series. I have read her other series that follows this one, the Cities of Refuge, and it is excellent. Now this one actually starts in Egypt, and the main character is actually not Hebrew, she is Egyptian. And what is really neat is, in the Bible, it tells that when the people left Egypt, a mixed multitude went with them, including people that, were not Hebrews, like Egyptians that actually believed in all of these things that God was showing. So she ended up becoming one of them who left Egypt with the Hebrews. And it goes on to tell her story, and this series branches off from her, and her friend, and I guess her family members after this, and then it goes into the Cities of Refuge in Joshua's time. So this is really great. I'm sorry that I had actually not started with this series before the Cities of Refuge, but I'm really glad that I'm actually able to backtrack and go through this now. So I love this one. Again, I love Connelly Cassette, so this is a great one to me. Okay, the next one is Egypt's Sister by Angela Hunt. I'm going to be completely honest and say that I was actually really disappointed in this book. I am not really into The Silent Years by Angela Hunt. I only read it because someone had suggested it to me, so I went ahead and read it. Honestly, I'm not going to lie, this one was a little bit harder for me to read because it takes place in the time of Cleopatra, and Cleopatra has a Jewish friend when she is young, and then when she becomes queen, the friend still wants to be a friend, but Cleopatra, now she's got to run a whole country, and the friend is still innocent and still wants to be able to, see her as her friend. To make a long story short, Cleopatra really turned on her and made her life a living nightmare. And I felt so bad for Cleopatra's friend in this book. And then it also made me so angry towards Cleopatra. I know that the theme of the book is, to forgive. But my goodness, it actually made me angry reading this book to see what Cleopatra had done to that girl. So if you get upset easily at bad situations, I probably wouldn't suggest this book to you. Okay, the next one is another Tessa Ashfar book, is The Thief of Corinth. This one's really neat. This one takes the place in the time of Paul when he is in Corinth and he's going back and forth after Jesus is already crucified and is risen. And this one is actually, again, another story where it takes place in a biblical time, but the characters are all fictional, except some main characters like Paul and a few important people that are during that time. So this one is actually really neat. I really like this story. I could actually really associate with the girl that's in it. Basically, her parents get divorced, her father's a thief, and she ends up becoming one with him. So at the end, she finally realizes that through Jesus, she can actually be redeemed. And it is a wonderful, wonderful story. I'm really impressed with this one. But again, Tessa Ashfar and Colin Cassette are really some of my favorite authors. Okay, and then the last one is The Well by Stephanie Lansom. This one is, I believe this one is part of a series, and this was the first one, The Well. And then I believe the next one was The Thief, and then the next one was The Tomb. So this one's the very first one. Of course, I had read The Thief already before, but this one is about the woman at the well. Now, we all know that story. Jesus goes to a well in Samaria, and there's a woman there, and he asks her to get him some water. And she's surprised that he's even talking to her because she's a woman, but also because she's a Samaritan. And in those days, Jews did not speak to Samaritans. And this lady, she's had a really bad past. She's already had 5 husbands, and the man that she's with right now is not her husband. So this book was really good. I think the only part that bothered me was Stephanie Lansom had written into the book that this particular woman had ended up getting stoned for previous crimes that she had done, even though the Bible doesn't speak of her being that particular woman that gets dragged out into the middle of the city. And then this lady comes very close to dying. So that's the only part that I didn't like. And then I also really was not impressed with the fact that the people that had done this to her in the city, they weren't even held accountable at the very end. So other than her healing, through Jesus, she didn't really have any... she didn't really have any peace about the matter in that sense. So overall, this one was probably a 4-star for me. So again, these are all the books that I ended up reading in May of 2020. So if you guys like biblical fiction, make sure to follow me. I always post an update on the biblical fiction books that I read every single month. Bye.